In the dim glow of the nebular dawn, the warship Eclipsera drifted in orbit above the scorched world of Viera 9. Its hull shimmered with the residue of plasma fire, and the silence that followed the last battle felt heavier than the void itself. Inside the ship's medical bay, the air was thick with the scent of disinfectant and ozone. And on the cold slab of the repair table lay Commander Lyra Varen, the most feared warrior of the Vieran Dominion. Her armor, a living exosuit forged from biometal, pulsed faintly with dying light. Cracks ran down her chest plate like veins of black glass. Beneath the fractured plates, she was struggling to breathe. Standing over her was a human, Lieutenant Marcus Hale of the Terran Alliance, the enemy. Or at least he had been. Now he was the only one left alive who could help her. One, the dying warrior. "Step back," Marcus said, his voice steady but his eyes betraying unease. "I need to access the respirator port." Lyra's gaze flickered open, her pupils glowing faintly gold. Even in pain, she looked unbreakable. Her hair, a cascade of silver and violet strands, was matted with streaks of her species' blue blood. "Don't touch the core," she rasped. "It's linked to my heart." "I gathered that," Marcus replied, scanning the armor's systems with a trembling handheld analyzer. "Problem is, your armor's fusing with your lungs. If I don't remove part of it, you'll suffocate." Lyra's breathing hitched. The hum of the ship's damaged engines echoed faintly through the hull. "You're a soldier," she whispered. "Why save me?" Marcus paused. "Because I'm not here to watch someone die when I can stop it." Her golden eyes softened, a flicker of something human in an alien face. "Then, do it." Beneath the armor, he reached for the release node near her collarbone. The armor shuddered beneath his touch, reacting like a living thing. It hissed, retracting slightly, but not enough. "Your suit's fighting me," he murmured. "It doesn't trust me." "It won't, until I tell it to." She lifted a trembling hand and pressed her palm against his wrist. The touch was cold, but gentle. "Override accepted," she whispered to the armor in her language. The metal pulsed once, then softened. Marcus began removing the chest plate. Beneath the layers, instead of machinery, he found veins of light and threads of bioluminescent tissue fused with her skin. Her species' armor wasn't just metal, it was part of them. A second nervous system. When the final plate came loose, Lyra gasped, inhaling deeply for the first time in hours. Her chest rose and fell shakily, and a faint sound escaped her lips. Half sigh, half sob. "Easy," Marcus said softly. "You're okay now." She looked up at him. "You speak as if you care." He smiled faintly. "Maybe I do." War and wounds for 2 days. Marcus tended to her wounds, patching torn tissue and restoring oxygen balance. The Eclipsera was stranded, its engines dead, and both of them knew rescue was uncertain. In that isolation, the boundaries between enemies began to blur. Lyra watched him as he worked. "You're a medic," she said one evening. "Combat engineer, technically," he replied. "But I trained in xenobiology after Mars." "Mars," she repeated, tasting the word. "Your red world," he nodded. "You've been there?" "Once," she said. "As an observer. I thought your people were fragile." "Some of us are," he said with a grin. "Others survive anything." She tilted her head. "You think you're one of those?" He laughed quietly. "I'm here, aren't I? Trapped in orbit with a Vieran commander who could crush me with one arm." Her lips twitched. "I'm not sure whether to take that as flattery or fear." "Whichever makes you feel better," he said. Her laughter, a soft metallic sound, filled the room. For the first time, Marcus realized it wasn't the sound of an enemy. It was the sound of someone who had spent her whole life in battle and forgotten what peace felt like. 4. The confession. On the 5th night, the lights dimmed to conserve power. The stars outside shimmered like scattered embers. Marcus sat near her bed, staring out the viewport. "You could have left me," Lyra said suddenly. "You could have taken the escape pod." He turned. "And leave you to die?" "Yes. That's what your kind does when the enemy is weak." He studied her face. "Maybe. But I've seen too much death to add one more." She looked at him for a long moment, then asked, "Do you know why we wear armor that breathes for us?" He shook his head. "Because our homeworld's air burns us. We were born in exile. From the day we're hatched, we depend on our armor to live. It gives us strength, but it also cages us." Marcus leaned forward. "You mean you've never felt natural air?" Her eyes glistened faintly. "Not without pain." Silence hung between them. The hum of the ship's dying systems was the only sound. "I could adjust the filtration unit," Marcus said slowly. "Let you breathe without it. For a little while." She stared at him, disbelief flickering across her features. "You'd do that?" He smiled. "I'd like to see the face of the galaxy's strongest warrior breathing free." For the first time, she smiled. Not the sharp, confident grin of a commander, but a fragile, grateful smile. "Then help me. Breathe." 5. The moment. He adjusted the unit and carefully detached the final connector from her armor's throat seal. The hiss of decompression filled the room. The armor peeled away from her neck, revealing pale, iridescent skin beneath. She inhaled, slowly, cautiously. Her breath trembled. Then she exhaled, a quiet sound that seemed to carry the weight of a lifetime. "It's cold," she murmured, "but soft." Marcus chuckled. "That's oxygen. You'll get used to it." She reached out and touched his face with tentative fingers. "Your skin is warm. You live in warmth." "That's one way to put it," he said softly. Her hand lingered. "You risked your life for this moment. Why?" He hesitated. The truth was simple, but dangerous to admit. "Because I wanted to know who you are, without the armor." Her golden eyes widened slightly. "You're a strange human." "Maybe," he said, "but I think we both needed this." When the alarm sounded, the moment shattered when the proximity alarm blared. Marcus jumped to the control console. "Something's approaching. Large vessel, bearing 091. Lyra staggered to her feet, half in her armor, half out. "Show me." The scanner flickered. An incoming Vieran warship. Lyra's expression darkened. "They'll destroy the ship and anyone inside. They won't know you saved me. They'll see only an enemy." Marcus turned to her. "Then we need to make sure they don't find us." "It's too late. They're locking on." He grabbed her arm. "Then let me do something reckless." Before she could respond, he ran to the ship's distress beacon and rewired the frequency. "What are you doing?" she demanded. "Sending a false distress code. It'll read as a hull breach. They'll think we're already dead." The console sparked as he forced the override. The screen dimmed. Outside, the approaching warship slowed, scanned the wreck, and turned away. Lyra stared at him in disbelief. "You just lied to an entire Dominion fleet." He grinned. "Guess that makes us both fugitives now." Her expression softened. "You would risk your people's wrath, and mine?" He shrugged. "Seems fair. I already risked your armor." 7. The human and the warrior. They drifted together in silence after that, two souls suspended between stars and duty. Lyra's strength slowly returned, though she never put the armor back on fully. She said it felt like wearing her own chains. One evening, she found Marcus asleep in the cockpit, a blanket draped haphazardly around his shoulders. His hand rested on the console as if still ready to act. She studied him quietly, memorizing the human softness she'd been taught to despise. He looked fragile, but he'd been braver than any warrior she knew. When he stirred awake, she whispered, "Marcus, when we return, our worlds will be enemies again." "I know," he said softly. but maybe the galaxy's big enough for peace. She smiled sadly. You think love can change empires? He met her gaze. It changed us. What happened next? Days later, a neutral trader ship picked up their beacon. The captain agreed to take them both to a free station at the edge of Vaeran space. They traveled together in silence, knowing that once they arrived, they would have to part ways, or be hunted. As the ship approached the station, Lyra turned to him. You gave me air. You gave me life. What do I give you in return? He looked at her, his eyes steady. Your promise. That when we meet again, it won't be as enemies. She nodded slowly. Then I promise. He extended his hand. She took it. Her grip was strong, yet trembling. Goodbye, Commander, he said. Goodbye, human, she whispered. As she stepped out into the docking bay, she turned one last time. Her armor was gone. Her hair shimmered in the artificial light. For the first time, she looked unburdened. Marcus watched her disappear into the crowd, the faint trace of her golden gaze lingering in his memory like starlight after a dying sun. Epilogue months later, deep within Terran space, a coded message flickered onto Marcus's console. No sender, no origin. It read only 2 words, still breathing. He smiled, leaned back in his chair, and whispered, So am I. Outside, the stars burned quietly, witnesses to a love born between war and air, armor and flesh, duty and desire. And somewhere among those stars, 2 hearts that were never meant to meet still remembered the moment when she asked the human to remove her armor, so she could finally breathe.